So the only question we have is for Mr. Tom, and it says, can we have a win-win situation on youth and migration? What are some of the emerging issues on migration? When you mention xenophobia in South Africa, the Chinese in Zambia, racism in parts of Europe, etc.
Okay, thank you so much for that question. I hope you can hear me. Okay, let me just, okay, yeah, you can hear me. Yeah, so when you ask about whether it's possible to have a win-win situation, I personally do believe it's 100% possible. We can have a win-win situation for both young people, and the host communities, in the context of youth migration. But then I know someone would ask the question, how? How can we have this win-win situation? The first thing I believe that needs to be done is for governments in Africa and world over to have the political will and develop policies that support both migrants and host communities. We need policies that are going to focus on the integration of young migrants into these host communities. And this can create a win-win situation by providing opportunities for young people to succeed, while also benefiting the communities they live in. So this can include programs such as education, employment, access to healthcare for both migrants, and also these host communities. We also need to encourage entrepreneurship and innovation. Now, this is very key. Young migrants often bring skills such as, entrepreneurship in these communities in which they settle. So encouraging entrepreneurship and innovation can create opportunities for young people who are going to start businesses and create jobs and contribute to the local economy, which is a win situation in that case. The other thing we can do is to address the root cause. I think I alluded to this earlier on. So addressing the root cause of migration, such as poverty, lack of economic opportunities, can create a win-win situation in this phenomenon by reducing the need for young people to move. Because now you can get a job. The unemployment levels in Zambia, for example, are very high. You realize that 60% of Zambia's population remains unemployed. So when you look at these numbers, one can only wonder to say, what can be done then to stop people from moving and let Zambia benefit from its own brains? Because if I was unemployed, for example, and I got a job to go and do something in another country, I would definitely go because I want to take care of myself, my family, and the people around me. So for my country to benefit from what I have to offer, there is need for these countries to create employment. And that is one of the things that can be done for there to be, a win-win situation. We can also promote cultural exchange. I like what Farafina has been doing and very commendable for what they have been doing. So encouraging cultural exchange between migrants and host communities can create a win-win situation. How? Because it fosters a mutual understanding, and respect between these two different countries, such that there'll be no things such as racism, there'll be no xenophobia, where you have to kill your fellow people. There'll be no, demonizing of people with a different skin in this global world we live in. So I think if we promote cultural exchange, it makes it possible for us to be able to actually, have a win-win situation whereby the people that are moving to different countries like South Africa are not going to be killed through xenophobia and the likes. We've got Zambians in the past that have moved to South Africa and sadly have been reported dead during these xenophobic attacks, which shouldn't be the case. So for me, I think overall, creating a win-win situation for young people and host communities in the context of youth migration requires a comprehensive approach, that is going to address the needs and aspirations of both groups, that is the young people and these countries in which they're living. We need to focus on policies and programs, that are going to support, like I said, the integration, entrepreneurship, innovation, and cultural exchange for us to have a win-win situation. Then your last question was on what are some of the emerging issues. This is something I'm very passionate about, and I've been working on some paper that has to do with emerging issues when it comes to, migration and all these other, global issues we're facing today. So one of the emerging issues I want to make mention of is climate change and migration. Climate change and migration is a strong link. You cannot separate the link between climate change and migration. So climate change is increasingly, being recognized by the world, reports and by the United Nations as a major driver of migration. particularly when you look at vulnerable regions such as Africa, the Pacific, Asia, you realize that climate change is intensifying. And as such, it is expected that more people will be displaced, due to environmental disasters. We've seen these things happening. We've seen sea levels rising, and other climate-related, issues, which are forcing people into moving. So it is an emerging issue that has to be looked at today. What is the linkage between climate change and migration? Very important. The other thing I think is forced displacement and protracted cities. Look at Ukraine. Look at the war in Ukraine. Look at what is happening in these war-torn countries. Look at Sudan. You look at Mozambique, on the other side of Mozambique. You look at the Congo DRC. So there's forced displacement, there's protracted crisis, and there are currently over 82 million people that are being forced to be displaced world over. And these are big numbers. These are huge numbers. You cannot ignore these statistics. This includes refugees, asylum seekers, internally displaced persons, and all these kind of things. So this is an emerging issue also, because many of these people are in protracted cities, meaning that they have been displaced, for extended periods of time, like in Ukraine. And this is something we need to look at. And lastly, the emerging issue, I've got so many things I will talk about, but just lastly, in the interest of time, the emerging issue I'll talk about is gender and migration. Gender is increasingly being recognized also as a critical factor in migration. Why am I saying so? Because you realize that women and girls are facing, vulnerabilities and challenges, including sexual and gender-based violence, discrimination, limited access to opportunities and resources. And as such, they are being forced to move because they think in our host countries, we don't have opportunities to, for example, drive. Look at the Middle East. For a long time, I think women were not able to drive, to do all sorts of things. So the next thing is they had to move. So issues of gender and migration have got a strong linkage as well, and these become emerging issues. Of course, today, on a lighter note, people are saying Zambia has become a province of China, because we are seeing so many Chinese nationals coming to Zambia. And these are global issues, yes, emerging issues coming up. So many people traveling world over, moving into these countries for different reasons. We can talk about them another time. But for today, in the interest of time, I'll end there. Thank you so much, Tawi. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tony.
Sure.
Sorry. Thank you so much, Tom. What I love,
Yeah.
actually, I'm telling you, Tony, because I've been looking at Tony's face the whole time as he heard you speak, and it looks like he looks so inspired and childlike. Just his eyes are glistening, just listening to you speak. Thank you so much, Mr. Tom. I really love everything that you have to say on contemporary trends that are contributing to what's currently happening in migration. Thank you so much.